Finding your voice as a writer or as an artist can feel a little bit like searching for hidden treasure. You find it and you're there. You've got it forever. It'll never leave. You've made it. At least I know that's how it's felt for me to think about finding this voice, finding my voice as a writer. And I never knew if I really had it. And I think this is because of a couple of things. I think voice is something that people read into your work when they've read more than one thing that you've written, and they can see the things that unify your work piece over piece over piece. And I think that's the same thing with visual art, that it's something that you as the artist may not be able to see as clearly as somebody looking at the things that you make next to each other. That's not always the case. And that's kind of what prompted me to make this video, is that as of this year, after being a professional writer for 13 years, I don't worry about my voice. After writing this third novel draft, I've realized that voice is not something I will discern in my writing. It's something I can feel is coming through in the act of writing because I'm in sync with the creation. I'm letting what is comfortable, what is lovely, what is interesting to me pass into this thing that I'm making. And that, I think, is what the reader will discern as my unique voice. And I think the same thing is true for visual art. But I think I've been able to see my voice coming through a little bit more clearly than I ever have been able to. Sorry, I'm itchy because I just got my hair trimmed. I haven't really seen it as clearly in writing because I think writing is something I get lost in more than I've gotten lost in my visual artistic practice, because my visual artistic practice has not focused on creating large scale pieces or things that require a lot of time for one work. Being a professional artist is not my goal. Art means so much to me because it's a way to not be in my head. It's a way to figure out what's interesting to me about what I'm seeing. And recently, I feel I've found my voice as an artist because I've stopped being afraid to work from memory and from my own experiences, and to put a collection of experiences together on a page that have never existed in real life for me. And I hadn't thought at all about voice or symbols or what something meant to me as I was creating it when I started creating this recent series of vase paintings. It was only once someone asked me, like, because I had 5 of them all together, like, what is this about? What do you feel? That I really started to think, oh, like, there's a vase in every one of these. Or there's this like odd shape that is kind of functioning like a portal to something else. And I realized, like, these are all about becoming a parent. These are all work that is about change, transformation, objects that can hold something else, but also be just themselves, just the object without doing any holding. And so, like I said before, it's something that people can read into your work. It's also something in this case where I was like, oh, even as I was painting, like, oh, this is what I want to be doing. And I think that's really the important thing to pay attention to when you're making something, is that feeling of, this is me, this is what I should be doing, this is so important to me for X, Y, and Z reason. In my experience, finding one's voice is really more about finding the comfort and confidence to speak. There seem to be some people who have this very young, and I can only imagine it's because they have a strong sense of self, fostered by at least one careful adult. And I did not have that. Or I had a kind of cutting voice young that was based on a false confidence and fear. And that's a product of the fact that when I have dared to speak throughout my life, I've often been told I shouldn't have, or that I was wrong. And these kinds of experiences can make us tentative or even afraid to say what we need to say. And there's like no easy way around this. For those of us with a burning need to figure out what we think and see, and with an equally strong need to share what we find with others, it can feel like when we don't get the responses we want right away, that we'll never figure out the right voice with which to articulate ourselves. And sometimes this makes people give up trying, the discouragement. Other times it pushes people to adopt what is already popular in an attempt to stay safe or be successful. And neither of those options does what I was speaking about before, about following the things that you find lovely, interesting, enraging. My most recent novel draft is largely a product of my own frustration with one part of our society. And so use what you have and don't worry too much about what other people will think of it. Make the body of work that expresses the world you see and want to see. Somebody's gonna need that, you know? Anyway, I know this was much more rambly than my videos usually have been, but it just felt really important to talk about all this with you. So thank you for being here.